call. This is Toolbox Tuesday. We'll be going through advanced purchasing and advanced item tracking with Matt as our special guest. He's one of our product leads here at ERP Connect. What we're going to talk about today are first, the gaps in out-of-the-box Business Central, the solutions that we provide at ERP Connect Consulting. Matt's going to go into a live demo of advanced purchasing and advanced item tracking, so stick around for that. We'll dive into the quick next steps on how to get this into your demo environment, go through our resources, and finally, we'll top it off with a Q&A. But for those of you that are familiar, hop into the chat box at any time. I'll be monitoring this during Matt's presentation. We'll make sure to handle your questions. All right, Matt, let's jump into the gaps. So first things first, everyone, what are the current gaps in out-of-the-box Business Central? And I'm sure a lot of you on this call are probably familiar with a few of these. So number one, there are no out-of-the-box templates for vendor communications in Business Central. On top of that, you have to manually add vendors to the vendor item table on the item card. And there's really no way to automatically calculate things like vendor lead time or item reorder points. That's kind of what we're seeking to fill with advanced purchasing on this call today. In terms of advanced item tracking, the current gaps in BC that we're looking to fill are right now, there's a manual process for generating lot numbers on purchase orders in Business Central, and there's manual procedures to process recurring purchase documents. So now that we've got a good idea of the gaps, what are the solutions? Number one, setting up email templates for quotes, orders, invoices, return orders, and credit memos. Being able to automatically calculate vendor lead time, vendor item lead time, minimum and maximum inventory levels, and item reorder points. And generating email purchase quotes directly from a job, production order, sales quote, or sales order. These are all things that Matt is going to show with advanced purchasing today. In terms of advanced item tracking, the solutions are creating, scheduling, and processing recurring purchase documents automatically, and auto-generating lot numbers and expiration dates on warehousing and purchase receipts. So without further ado, y'all know us here. We want to hop right into the solution as soon as possible. Matt, take it away.
Yep. All right. Thank you very much, Grant. Like Grant said, just want to reiterate, if you guys have any questions, feel free to use that chat box and we can either answer those as we go or send a follow-up after this. All right. So first thing, hopping right into BC, you're going to see I'm just on the item list here. We've added this item vendor fact box over on the fact box pane for the item. This is just going to give you a quick view of who your vendors are that you purchased the item from, what was the last cost, what was the last date that you made that purchase, and what was your margin there. Additionally, you've got that quote cost and quote quantity. And again, like Grant showed in the gaps, rather than base Business Central where you've got to add this information manually, every time you process a purchase receipt, this table is going to go ahead and update. Another thing that's worth calling out there, this is also going to flow through to that standard base BC item vendor catalog. So again, that vendor number, the vendor item number, this lead time calculation, rather than having to manually input this is going to get automatically calculated based off of a predefined amount of receipts. So in this case, I'm telling the system to look at the last or the most two recent purchase receipts from each of these vendors and go ahead and bring in that lead time calculation automatically. Right, and then all these other fields are going to be exactly the same as what you saw on the item fact box here. All right. Let's turn over to a sales order now. So I'm going to go ahead and process a new special order. So customer called and requested some inventory. We don't have it, but I'm going to go ahead and shop around at a few different vendors and get that best price and send those goods out to the customer. Right. So just starting to build out this sales order here. One important field to call out here is going to be this requested delivery date. So you'll see it once I do get to the purchase quote worksheet, but this is really going to drive the selection of those vendors if you're doing it automatically. So I'm going to go ahead and say I need this by the 21st of June. All right. Then down to the lines, just going to add a few different items here. And then again, just to call out this item vendor fact box, we've also got it down here on the sales order, right? So it's just going to pull up those item vendors automatically for you. Right, so I'll add my 3 items here. I've got a desk, some chairs, throw a conference table in there as well. All right, and then like I said, this is going to be a special order. So I'll go ahead and add that purchasing code here. And my quantity. All right, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and launch the purchase quote worksheet. Again, this is going to be a sales order. We also have this on the requisition worksheet, jobs, and I believe also on the sales quote. All right, so here, this is going to be my worksheet lines, everything directly from that sales order. What I can do now is generate purchase quotes for all 3 of these items. What this is going to do is it's going to look at the item vendors that I showed previously and go ahead and generate quotes for any of those items that a vendor sells. All right, so get this message, purchase quotes have been generated. From here, I can email these purchase quotes directly to all the vendors staying on the same screen. All right, so those are all going to go out there. And then here you'll see, so I've got 5 quotes for this first item, and then 3 quotes for each of those 2 other items. Can drill in there, and if I want to see the actual document, open that again directly from the purchase quote worksheet. All right, and then we'll just pretend that we got some updated prices from this vendor. So maybe they're running a special. We've got $650 there, $190 there. We'll go ahead and release this. All right, you'll see here I can also generate vendor quote Excels. This is going to basically just create this exact purchase quote, but in an Excel format that the vendor could go in, populate, and then you can import it back in to bring in those costs automatically. Oh. Right. So again, this will be that purchase quote worksheet. Goal there would be email it to the vendor, they go in, just a simplified view of the quote, right? So they only need to populate their vendor item number, the quantity they can provide, best price, and that soonest available delivery date. And again, if you remember back on that original sales order, I'd set the requested delivery date. So again, you'll see where this comes in once I bring that back. All right, so now back to that original purchase quote. I'll go ahead and say import vendor quote. And I'll go in and re-upload that Excel worksheet. Oh. All right, so again, you'll see that expected receipt date and direct unit cost all got updated. Going back to the purchase quote worksheet now. So again, we can just pretend that the other vendors reached back out, some time had passed, and now it's time to go ahead and actually move forward with this purchase and the related sales order. All right, so up here you'll see we've got a few options. We've got best price, soonest delivery, and best price by that requested date. So if I go in here, set to best price, it's obviously going to go out, find my best price vendor, and assign that as the selected vendor for this item. All right, best price by date is going to look at the lowest price, but still before that date parameter that we set on the sales order. All right. And then once I'm happy with all my selections here, I can go ahead and say set selection. This is just going to assign that purchase quote to this line. Right, so again, I could drill back in and view that quote. Otherwise, I can go ahead and generate the POs directly from the sales purchase quote worksheet. All right, so it's going to give me a confirmation. Say yes, I'm ready to generate my POs. And those POs have now been generated. All right. So if we go back to that sales order, if you remember, since this was set to special order, if I scroll all the way over to the right here, I've got that special order number as well as that related purchase quote number. All right, so just opening this PO to show those email templates real quick. See right here, we've got send by email APR. I think I might have accidentally hit the history. An accidental plug for history and statistics. If this is something you're interested in, definitely follow up with us. But again, going into send by email APR here. All right, so you'll see I've got one email template set up for purchase orders. Again, we've got communication templates for purchase returns, quotes, invoices, credit memos, and past due reminders. And so I'll go ahead and go with that one. And then it's just going to give me a brief email draft here. We've got a bunch of different wildcards that are set up. So those are the percents that you saw back on that email subject, and then same thing in the email body. Then I'll go ahead and send that PO to the vendor. Maybe not from this environment. All right, Grant, did we get any questions coming in on purchase quote worksheet or special orders?
Nothing yet, Matt, but for all the new people that hopped on in the last 10 minutes, if you have any questions, please feel free to hop in the chat box. Back to you, Matt.
Awesome. All right, so all good to go there now. Next, we're going to go ahead and show the recurring purchase functionality. So go ahead and search for recurring purchase documents. All right, so here you'll see I've got two recurring purchase orders set up for two different vendors here. Again, you'll see these wildcards. So every time an instance of this recurring purchase order gets generated, that vendor invoice number will update with the vendor name and the posting date in this case. And then I'll go ahead and create a new recurring purchase order to talk through the rest of the fields. All right, I'll go ahead, pick a vendor. And again, this should be very similar to what you're used to on a standard PO, but the goal here is just creating a dashboard to generate these on a schedule for anything recurring. So we see this for, rent, any recurring expenses. Obviously, I'm on the recurring purchase order here, but we've got the same exact functionality on the purchase invoice side as well. All right, so again, I'll go ahead and use these wildcards on the invoice number. And then right here, so you'll see this is really the only difference between the recurring PO and a standard PO in BC. So go ahead and set my recurring frequency to 1 week. You'll see on that other one, I used CM minus 1M, I think was the exact, but what that'll do is just generate it on the first of every month for as long as you want it to, right? You can also drill in here if you want them to go out on specific dates. You could populate all those dates they need to go out in here. All right, and then you'll see posting options. So this is going to say, once the actual purchase order is created from the recurring purchase order, what do you want to do with it? Do you want it to just be created and left open, created with the status of released, or actually create it and post both the receive and invoice, or just the invoice if needed. In this case, I'll do create and release. I'll say the next occurrence date. Let me make sure what my work date is here. So it's today. All right, you'll see this next occurrence posting date got updated with 7 days after the occurrence date. That's just in my setup. I have a 7-day posting date offset to allow a full week to process that purchase order before posting it. All right, and then expiration date, exactly what it sounds like. So after this date, recurring purchase orders will no longer be generated for this specific order. Right, and then you can also set it on hold. So if you start it, and 3 instances go by and you need to hold off for a month or two, you can either just set that and it'll leave it on hold indefinitely, or you can enter in a date to leave it on hold until. All right, then I'll just add a few items here. Should be everything. All right. So now if I bounce over to the recurring dashboard, let me load here. So I'm just going to go to this recurring dashboard APR here. You'll see we also have recurring documents on the ISD side, but that's a separate extension, so we'll leave that out for the time being.
Hey,
All
Matt, we did get a question for you,
Perfect. Go for it.
right? Are they automatically sent or just generated?
So they're just going to be generated, and that's what I'll show right here, right? So if you notice, I'm on the recurring dashboard, and we've got this ERC next occurrence date. So in this case, my work date's the 15th of June. So it will generate at least this one and maybe this one, depending on what my setup is. Just go here. Right, so it's just going to generate them. If you have the purchase order set to send upon posting to the vendor, then obviously it would send if on that recurring purchase order I had set it to post automatically. Right, so in that case, it only generated that one purchase order that I had just created. Right, and you've got that status released. Actually, I think it was the other one. Forget which vendor I selected. Horvath importers. Right, so again, at that point, you would either just come in and use that predefined template that you have set up, or like I said, if it was set to post automatically, then that'll go ahead and go out. Another thing just to call out with advanced purchasing, we do have the ability to send PO follow-ups automatically to vendors if the due date, if your work date exceeds the due date on the PO. Just go over to that. My goodness. Right, so again, down here, I've got past due follow-ups. Right now, it's just going to my email. If I were to clear that out, it would go to the actual vendor email addresses. And this is saying every 1 day that passes that we don't receive that PO, go ahead and send that follow-up to the vendor. right? And then again, doubling back, so you'll see item vendor fact box on the sales order. That's what I showed. Same exact thing on sales quotes, purchase orders, purchase quotes, and on the item card and item list like I showed. And then you've got this check vendor invoice number on purchase order, purchase invoice. So if we've got any partners or BC consultants on the call, you might be familiar with entering a purchase order or purchase invoice. And then once you get to the time of posting, the system will say, hey, this external document number already exists for this vendor. What we're doing here is just checking that number upon entry rather than upon posting to avoid having to do that data entry more than once. Right, and then that lead time like we talked about, so saying auto create item vendor instead of base C where you've got to add them one by one, and then auto calculate that lead time based off of those last 2 receipts. And then on the other item is going to be that item reorder point. So we've got the ability to automatically calculate that based on a certain amount of days of usage, as well as a multiplier to get any safety stock and a buffer in your order point. Right, and then like I mentioned, so on the recurring documents, we've just got that number series set up, posting option, whether you want it to receive only when if you're automatically posting or receive an invoice, and then that posting date offset compared to the generation date. I just saw another question come through, Grant. So does this play nice with AP automation programs like ZetaDocs? I would need to know kind of what you're doing with ZetaDocs and what you would, where you would want to cross over to use APR, but yes, it should work with ZetaDocs. All right. If we've got no other questions there, I'll go ahead and show the advanced item tracking auto generate lot numbers. Just go and create a new PO here. All right, so I've got my lot tracked item. I'm going to go ahead and add that here. Quantity of 50. All right, and so standard BC, before I go ahead and receive this, I would need to go into line, item tracking lines, assign or generate a lot number and an expiration date if needed. With advanced item tracking, when I actually post the receipt, it's going to generate that lot number and expiration date automatically based off of what my work date is. All right, so I'll go ahead and open this posted purchase invoice. All right, and again, so I've got that item. If I go to item tracking entries, you'll see I've got that 06/15/2024 lot number. That's just my work date in this system. Otherwise, it would be today's date if my work date was today's date, and then that expiration date automatically gets set as well. And this is just going to be based off what's on the item card. So I probably have a blank or 0-day expiration date formula in there. All right. Any additional questions? Anything anyone was wanting to see? I can double back and show, again, that requisition worksheet is going to be on the sales quote and requisition worksheet as well, but the functionality in terms of, building out those quotes, sending the Excel to vendors, getting the Excel back from vendors, and then ultimately making those order decisions based on either system-driven parameters or just manually selecting them.
Looks like nothing on this end so far in the chat box, Matt.
All right, good deal. So Grant, in that case, I will pass it back to you to talk through some next steps here for everyone.
100%, Matt. So for everyone on the call, This has been the live demo of advanced purchasing as well as advanced item tracking. As y'all can see, it's pretty intuitive. It creates quite a bit of enhancement to BC out of the box. So what are our next steps here? Now that we've seen it, we want you to have the capability to put both of these tools into either your test or your demo environment. So for every one of our 28 extensions, you do have a 30-day free trial, which means if you're a partner, you can easily get this into your demo. If you're a user, you can work with your partner to get this in your sandbox. We have a 90-second activation video that will show you how to get any of our extensions from AppSource and how to get that demo key set up. And it's pretty much just as easy as clicking a button. And then we have our resources. So Matt, if you can hop over to the next slide on our resources within AppSource and within our bctoolbox.com product page, we have summaries, screenshots, we have technical user setup guides. A lot of them maybe 25 to 50 to 75 pages, but they have full-on screenshots and walkthroughs. They're incredibly beneficial. We will post this recording on our YouTube channel, along with all of our other 18 or so episodes of Toolbox Tuesday, our demos, and our new recorded configuration sessions. And we also have a comprehensive product guide that will give you a fit gap analysis of all these tools, as well as show you how much configuration and training time they'll take. Now, everyone on the call, Matt's our product lead. If you do have any questions, or if you want a more comprehensive look, or if you're a partner and you want a specific training with your team, you can reach out to us as well. But Matt, any specific use cases or any clients you've worked with in the past where you think one of these tools would really shine, or where this would really make a difference in a prior implementation?
Yeah, I mean, it comes up all the time. And I think too, that's where a lot of our extensions have come from, where, we've seen requirements over and over that people are looking to optimize. In this case, they're purchasing and receiving functionality and communicating with vendors. So definitely in a lot of prior lives, I wish I would have had APR available and advanced item tracking. But again, really just those environments where you want to fine tune any special orders and make sure there's no issues on the data entry side. Like you saw there, I was able to basically fully process a special order in 5 or 10 minutes. Granted, you've still got to interact with and collaborate with the vendors, but again, just thinking about everything we can do in the system to make that as straightforward and painless as possible.
That's beautiful. So for everyone on the call, if you do have any more questions, Matt and I are going to stick around for a few more minutes if you want to throw those in the chat box. But this has been our Toolbox Tuesdays on advanced purchasing and advanced item tracking. And we appreciate everyone's time. Hope everyone has a good rest of their week.